Hello everyone! If you're new here, my name is Valerie. I make sewing tutorials and sewing patterns. I've decided to start a new series where I'll be sewing my dream Pinterest wardrobe. One day I realized I sew a lot of pieces, but most of them are quite dressy and I rarely go anywhere that calls for those kinds of outfits. Meanwhile, I don't have many everyday basics. So in this series, I'll be sewing my ideal everyday wardrobe, inspired by my saved pins on Pinterest. And the first piece we're making is a pair of classic wide leg pants. I wanted a pair like this for a long time, but it's really hard to find the perfect fit and style in stores, so we're gonna make them ourselves. I think this is such a staple piece that everyone should have in their wardrobe because it works for casual or work outfits as well as more formal outfits. So today I'll be sewing them and showing you the entire process. And of course, I made a pattern for them, which you can find with a link in the description below. So let's get started.
For this project, I'm using Suiting fabric, and I used 1.3 meters of it. The exact amount depends on your size and whether all the pattern pieces fit within the fabric width. If not, you may need a longer length of fabric. I wear size S, and 160 centimeters fabric width was enough for me. You'll also need a trouser zipper, ideally matching your fabric. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a gray one to match perfectly, so I went with black. And one button. Before printing the full pattern, I recommend printing only the first page and measuring the test square to make sure the scale is correct. If everything correct, you can print the remaining pages. Trim all the edges marked with scissors, tape all the pages together, and cut out all the pattern pieces. Before cutting the fabric, I always pre-shrink it to prevent future shrinkage. You can do this either by washing it in a machine or by steaming it with an iron. I personally prefer using steam. It just feels quicker to me. Once the fabric is prepared, cut out the pieces according to the pattern instructions, which indicate how many of each piece you'll need. We begin sewing by forming the front pleats. On the wrong side of the fabric, match the markings and press the pleats toward the side seam, and secure them with a small stitch 7 mm from the edge. Do this on both front pieces. Next, sew the back darts. I prefer to first stitch along the dart line, then extend the stitching 1 cm straight down, and tie a knot by hand. I found this method gives a cleaner finish without creating a small bump at the dart tip. Then press the darts toward the center back seam. Now let's move on to the pockets. Attach the pocket facing to the side edge of the front piece, stitching 7 mm from the edge. Turn it and understitch the seam allowance toward the pocket. Then place the second pocket piece right sides together and sew along the curved edge. This can be done on an overlocker or a regular sewing machine. Then press the pocket and secure the top and side edges with a stitch to keep everything in place. With the pockets complete, we can move on to constructing the fly. I've already interfaced the fly facing and fly shield pieces. Fold the fly shield in half and stitch 7 mm from one side. Then trim the seam allowance and turn it right side out. Then overlock the edges of the fly pieces and the center front seams on the trouser pieces. Place the two front halves right sides together. To determine the fly length, position the zipper so that the slider sits 7 mm below the top edge, and measure down to the metal stopper. Mine measures 18 centimeters, which is fairly standard. I wouldn't recommend making it any longer. If your zipper is longer, it's better to shorten it. Mark the point where the metal stopper ends. From the top down to that mark, stitch 1 cm from the edge using a long basting stitch, so it can be removed later. At the mark, backstitch and continue sewing with a regular stitch length. Then press the seam open. You can slightly stretch the fabric at the curve for a better fit. Once the seam allowances are pressed, remove the temporary basting stitch. Now, align the zipper and a fly shield with a left front piece. The zipper slider should be 7 mm from the top edge. And stitch all the 3 layers close to the zipper teeth, about 1 mm away. Be careful here, as this is a visible final stitch. Next, attach the fly facing to the right front piece. I started from this point, 1 cm from the edge, and gradually taper it to 5 mm from the edge. I did this to leave a small fabric allowance so the zipper slider won't be visible. Trim the excess seam allowance, turn the facing, and press with a slider roll so the edge sits neatly. Now pin the zipper to the fly facing and sew them together. Finally, top stitch along the curved fly line, about 3 cm from the edge, to secure everything in place. And the fly is now complete, neat and clean on the inside. Now we can assemble the trousers. First, sew the back pieces together along the center back seam. Then join the front and back pieces at the side seams, and finally sew the inseam. I'm doing this on an overlocker. I also finished the hem edges at this stage, since my fabric frays quite a bit. However, if you're unsure about the lengths, try the trousers first, before finishing the hem. Before attaching the waistband, we need to prepare it. I interfaced it and overlocked one edge. Now fold it in half lengthwise and press. Next, make 5 bell loops. Fold the strip in half, press, fold the edges toward the center crease, fold again, press, and top stitch along both sides. Attach the bell loops to the trousers 7 mm from the edge, according to the markings on the pattern. Then pin the waistband to the trousers and sew it in place. To finish waistband edge, fold it as shown, turn the seam allowances slightly, and stitch. Then trim the seam allowances and turn the edge right side out. Do this on both sides. To secure the waistband invisibly, stitch in the seam ditch from the right side. This catches the inner edge without visible stitching. Then secure the bell loops by stitching downward from the waistband about 3 mm. Then fold them upward and stitch again at the top. Next, mark the buttonhole placement and make a buttonhole using a buttonhole foot. And carefully cut it open. For the hem, fold the trousers up by 2 cm and hand stitch using blind stitches, making sure the stitches remain invisible on the right side. And just like that, the trousers are finished.
I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, you can give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments. I read everything and reply to all of them. I'll see you in the next videos. Bye!